How are you? Thanks for changing your schedule around for us. I know you guys are probably busy tomorrow, I'm guessing. So, few things. Really, a lot of our updates today are on improvement projects across the city. So, looking forward to running through those with you, and then of course I'll take any questions that you have. Obviously, my garb today is in sport. Of course, we got American Magic starting the America's Cup. The preliminary regattas, opening ceremony actually is Thursday. Preliminary regattas this weekend. And then the real racing that counts, I believe, starts on the 29th. So very excited. Truly, they are our home team. As a matter of fact, if you drive by on Bayfront now, you can see repairs. The repair permit is underway for the existing structure at Warehouse 10. So you'll notice if you drive by there now that some of the paneling is off. You'll see you see the bones of the building a little more clear now. So very excited. We're getting weekly updates from the contractors on that progress. So that's really the first phase, which is to get the shell, the skeleton of the building up to where it needs to be, and then of course all the things happening inside and on the exterior will be taking place in the coming months. Obviously, we'll be won't be hitting a timeline of December like we had hoped, but we continue to of course when hopefully not if they win, when they win, American Magic will be back here. We'll of course be able to accommodate any of their temporary functions and all that as we have for years. We'll figure out a way to get their stuff back here, get it placed on the port, and so we have there's no issues of a delay in timeline causing any concern as it pertains to when they want to get back here. Just take a little bit longer for their permanent building. So, but yeah, again, just encourage everybody. I think ESPN Plus is streaming all the races, and as I told you guys when we announced the lease, there's a real opportunity that I would say there's been no greater vested interest in the success of a team in the history of the city. That the potential, which is still an if, but the potential of the City of Pensacola being able to host America's Cup is real, and that takes them beating the defender New Zealand, and we'll be rooting them on for sure. So excited for that. On New Palafox, we appreciate all the public input through the newpalafox.com. Of course, we've got all of the information. That just the conceptual design, as we mentioned last week, is up, and that's really the best way from the general public that we can continue to compile that data. As you guys have seen, lots of comments, positive, negative, or otherwise, on social media. That's not the most. If truly you've got ideas or solutions or things that you want to see or on Palafox in the reimagination of Palafox, then we do encourage you to go to thenewpalafox.com and send that feedback to make sure that it's heard and that it's considered by our technical experts. We're going to come up with a final date. We're putting together the design timeline of when we need to start to be able to hit all of our benchmarks. So it's open right now indefinitely, the comments, but I'll be coming back to you guys at some point in September. I'm going to guess maybe 30 days or so in total is when we'll cut off that public comment. Obviously, we've got to get going on the actual design itself. So no set date yet. We're working through details, but we will provide in advance what the final date would be, the final deadline to be able to provide public comments. And some of those comments, again, you guys heard me say this when we announced it, but I would say the biggest misperception is that these are funds that can be spent anywhere. I think people talk about that a lot of, well, if you've got $5 million, why don't you spend it somewhere else? As you guys, I know, are aware, $3 million of that is obligation of FPL to fix the roads that were cut up to put in their utilities. That doesn't just go to any project that you want. And then, of course, parking funds and CRA funds that are geographically tied to the area. So getting that public comment allows us to make sure that even if there's a few myths out there about what can or can't be done, we can try to address those. Speaking of paving projects, that's another misperception as well. we've got paving projects that, maybe this road needs some help, this road needs some help. We've been working on a comprehensive repaving plan for roadways across the city, and it's obviously always contingent on funding availability. I believe we got around $1 million right now, and we're starting with the public city street blocks that were assessed in the 2023 study with the pavement condition index scores as serious, very poor, and poor. And so there's locations that are first focused on the southwest portion of the city. As an example, I would say one that I hear from a lot is Main Street. When you get west of Bruce Beach, that there's some blocks in there on Main that are high on the list. And we're going to have a web page that outlines where these are going to be, where they're mapped out, and we anticipate about 50 blocks will be released for work beginning in September under a FY 2024 work order, and then we'll have a work order later this fall for fiscal year 2025. So we want everyone to see that map. Again, I think there's some misperception out there that we just, someone calls us or calls 311 and then we go out and repave a block. We are very data driven and data focused on where those priorities are. And there's lots of factors. For example, if someone in years past or generations past poured asphalt on top of concrete, well, that block is significantly more expensive to fix than a regular block of so there's lots of factors that go into these decisions, but these are not decisions that are made by the mayor or by the Public Works Department because we just drove by. That we work off of repaving on a very systemic, data-driven approach of saying where do we need this the most and where are we going to fix it. So more to come on that, but just as we were talking about Palafox and again, Palafox being the majority of its funding being from a private entity that owed us those funds, and that's why I think it's important that we're not comparing apples and oranges. That ultimately we're prioritizing Palafox because we have private investment that's coming to help fund the majority of that project. Certainly, if there's private investment out there that says, "Hey, we want this part of our this street in front of our business, and we're willing to help fund part of that," that's going to help shift priorities as well because it really ultimately comes down to funding. The crew is wrapped up on Zaragoza Street. I know you got the UWF Historic Trust announced it. We announced it. The pedestrian improvements for Zaragoza Street, we're all finished there. We'll see this fall with some of the festival season. You guys know that Seafood Festival and Arts Festival go down Zaragoza. We've got the bollards put in place, or have the ability to be put in place to keep folks a little safer. We've just been using, I think, orange barrels and cones and road closed signs for years and years. So I think that'll be a better experience and definitely a safer experience for our pedestrians during festival season and for folks that are just enjoying all of the attractions from, excuse me, all the attractions from UWF Historic Trust. So excited to see that project all completed and appreciate UWF getting the grant funding to make that project possible. We have a safety project on Tahar Drive. If you know, go by O.J. Sims, kind of down the hill, down there towards the bayou. There was some, historical safety issues, and we've had some, issues connected to fatalities, injuries, and there's going to be a speed table located between the intersections of Tahar and Cortez Drive, and the second will be Tahar and 16th. And we've gone through all those proper processes, notifications, procedures. But again, if you've driven that street, you understand the how someone could be climbing to an unsafe speed. And we expect this project to take about 10 days to complete, weather permitting. All right, we get the intermittent trucks that get stuck or peeled back like a sardine can at Graffiti Bridge. Reminds us that to give you an update because we'll get a lot of emails about suggestions for solutions. We've been talking for a while now on putting some chimes out. That process still continues. And if you recall, we had said we had gotten funding to put just the chimes out for the Graffiti Bridge. What we realized is that would have been short-sighted because of all of the other curb work and the paving work and the train trestle. The walk-through under the trestle. So we have about 3 or 4 small projects that we're kind of packaging all together to happen at once. And so that would seem to make more sense than rushing out chimes and put them on a curb that might be hitting boats that are going to the boat launch, as an example. So all of that, even though it's been a while, all of that still remains. We are wrapping up design for that entire area, and that includes the chimes, the boat launch parking lot, the boardwalk on the north side of the Graffiti Bridge, and we're aiming for construction in early 2025. So just because we haven't talked about it for a while doesn't mean we aren't moving on it. We're just trying to attack that as a multi-solution project, not just the one solution of the chimes. All right, your normal traffic update at our airport. July, we saw more than a 17% jump in passenger traffic compared to July of 2023. And right now, year to date, we're at 15% higher than last year. And if we were to have, interesting, we got a number from the airport director, if we were to have 0% growth for the remaining month and a half of the fiscal year, October 1, we would be just shy of 3 million passengers. Since we don't expect zero growth, we're expecting to get comfortably by the 3 million passenger mark, of course, a passenger record as we continue to set the passenger record every year. And you'll start to see this week when you come to City Hall, we've got a revamp of our lobby area in the first floor. You know, this room was done first. We got council chambers done. We should start to see some prep work for the lobby. And of course, there'll be some painting and some flooring and all that. So anybody visiting us, certainly appreciate your patience with us. And it'll have really no impact on operations at City Hall, but just you'll see some of that work happening. And that's all funded by ARPA. And then lastly, Bruce Beach Phase 2. It's one of the welcoming things you like to say. It's moving faster than we thought. And we expect really in the coming weeks to be pretty close to complete. I think we're shooting for a opening date in the first couple Saturdays of October, October 5th or October 12th. Too early to commit to one of those yet because of weather. You know, if we were to have, knock on wood, any rough weather, inclement weather, severe weather coming through, that obviously can affect timelines. So I'll continue to keep you guys posted through September. It's looking like a early October grand opening date for the entire Bruce Beach. And we'll, of course, make sure we notify you when we have that date finalized. So that is it from all of our improvement projects going, and happy to take your questions.
Mayor.
Yeah.
When ST comes to give you the presentation, no later than September 1st on their workforce development plan, when you open that to the public, will there be any public interaction? That company is not known for its transparency, and I think the public's expecting the ability to hear directly from them.
Okay. Well, first let me correct on date. What I said is the week of the 1st, so I don't, so it'll be the first week of September. I think we've got a date. I don't remember what exact day, but finalized. My goal ultimately is to get a clear understanding of what's the status of the ST project, and secondly, to get an understanding of what ST is doing to hire Pensacolians and hire local people. What are their efforts, and where are their efforts that need improvement? The second conversation as a community is to convene and say, what can we be doing as the school district, as Pensacola State, as UWF, as Florida West, Career Source Zaragoza? What can we be doing collectively to make sure that if there are gaps, that we're filling them? And let's have a cohesive conversation for once to say we're all invested financially, in terms of our bandwidth and this project being successful. How do we get there? And what we also want to do is we don't want, this is to eliminate any conversation down the road that would say, well, if we weren't able to fill these positions, it was because we needed help from Pensacola State or school district. I think ST's open and aware of that. Certainly we're open and aware of that. So, my job is to get us as close to that outcome as possible. I don't know that it's appropriate that the first meeting that I have with them about that be a public forum. Would I ask that they are communicating better with our public, and would I be open to that opportunity? Absolutely. Is that a fair ask of ST? Absolutely. But again, I'm focused really, phase one of this is let's get in a room and figure out what your needs are and all of that. So, I don't know. So no, I wouldn't commit that we're going to have a public meeting the first time I'm sitting down with them to talk about workforce. I don't know that that's the appropriate time, but certainly I think they're well aware of my expectation that we're doing a better job of communicating publicly and that there's lots of opportunity for improvement over this past month of which to do that.
I have a follow-on.
Go ahead.
When you first told us this a week or so ago, you said your focus was on Hangar 1. Mm-hmm. Now, reviewing Hangar 1, there was a lease only between the city and ST. Mm-hmm. This was prior to Triumph becoming involved in Project Titan, which mm-hmm. turned into Budget. In that lease, they're committed to certain metrics on hiring mm-hmm. that drives their annual lease payments. Mm-hmm. Is that what your interest is?
Yes. So what why my specific interest in Hangar 1 is we're reaching a point of expected deliverables of Hangar 1. Hangar 2, we're not there yet, right? Because it's only been open for so long. So my focus is on Hangar 1 because that's the first barometer, right? Of where are we? Where do we need to be? And so that doesn't mean Hangar 2 isn't important. It just means that we want to be fair to the agreement, right? And that you have the proper runway of ramping up those jobs. So my focus on Hangar 1 is, I would say the way you just described it is accurate, in terms of we're at that point of wanting to see how we're measuring up and what we should or shouldn't be doing. And so that's why I'm focused specifically on one.
What's the status on the stoplight cameras?
The last update, I don't know that there's been much of a change. I know we were waiting between FDOT and the vendor on some infrastructure needs that we needed at those levels. I believe so. I can get you exact specifics on it. But it wasn't something in the city's hands. It wasn't just a matter of turning on the switch. There was other parties that are needing to get all of that together. But there's no cause for concern that it isn't going to happen. It's just the time it's taking to get to that through permitting, and there was some infrastructure. I'm going to use an example. At 9th and Fairfield, they need a certain amount of power here, or be able to put a camera there, or whatever. The vendor and FDOT. 9th Avenue, remember, is a state road, and I've got to go off memory. The majority of these lights are going on either crossing over 9th Avenue or on 9th Avenue. So, there's some cohesion that needs to happen between FDOT and the vendor, but nothing we're still full steam ahead. We just are a little delayed on timing to get all of that done. We'll get you a date. We owe you a date. We'll get you the best, at least, date range we can get you. We'll work on that today or tomorrow.
Is there a timeline on the American Magic where you said the timeline's changed? So what are we looking at?
And a lot of the timeline changing is just a matter of cost of project, scope of project, the typical things that you run into. I think we in our head we've kind of treated it as a 12-month, meaning we're underway now. But my hope would be, I think the team's hope is probably sometime in the early summer. Early to midsummer of next year. Being fully complete. That doesn't mean that they can't be in the building before, but what we expect is that there would be some phase up of operations. For example, they may be able to operate the Patriot, or their AC-40s, but they may not start building boats until it's all the way, sealed in, as an example. So there's even kind of phases to the way that they could use the building. So that's why it's a little hard to answer. They might be able to use part of it in April, but then it's not all the way grand opened until June or July, So we're still in a little bit of wait and see. But the good news is we are officially underway with repair and design is almost complete on the overhaul, and of course, Green Hut I know is doing a great job, working on that for us, And so, again, right now our repair construction folks are sending ourselves and leadership of American Magic weekly updates on exactly what's happening week by week in there for the repairs. So, like any project, as you know, it's tough to say July 1st. At this point, it'd be unsafe to say that, but I think we're all encouraged by and are confident in where we are and when it needs to be open.
So maybe by this time next year.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's I don't want to hold them to that,
Right,
but
I
I think
know.
that's a fair, a 12-month process is probably a fair assessment.
Mayor, on the Graffiti Bridge
Mhm.
project, could you go into a little bit more detail about what exactly is kind of taking so long to get that one going?
Well, I think we started with the conversation of saying, let's get chimes out, right? And then what we've realized is, if you look at the condition of that boat ramp, the parking lot of that boat ramp, then when we say, well, man, it'd be good to redo that, and then we realize that whoever poured the asphalt on that boat ramp, poured it on dirt, and then we have a train trestle where I'm so appreciative of the Rail USA folks and the CEO Ryan Ratledge of having one of those rare things where you've got a good relationship between a train, a rail owner and a city, and that's why you recall that's why that walkthrough now which is going to be such a huge safety improvement for all of our residents to be able to cross under there safely. That takes some logistics too, because you're sending folks under somebody who owns property. So it's not really one specific thing. It's that we're trying to bundle together all of these projects and get them constructed at the same time. And some of those just had different complexities and different timelines. So it's not a delay out of preference. It's not a delay out of funding. I mean, we've had this funded for a while now, so we're not waiting on that. It's not like we're just designing it and hoping that we get the funding. So it's just, I would rather take the time now and make all of these improvements work than run some chimes out, then run new curb lines out, then run new parking lot out. I just didn't think that would be a fair way to do it, or a responsible way to do it. So our public works team's on top of it. So it's not a lack of, I think they've got 6,000 projects that they're working on right now. So they get to breathe and eat dinner with their family and everything too. So we got a lot of things going, but I think the end result is the responsible way to handle it, and again, excited to get under construction in the first of 25.
Here, I don't mean to put you on the spot. RFQ.
That's what these are for, isn't it?
Yeah, well.
Go ahead.
We're working hard at it.
Yeah, that's right.
020, the Hollis T. Williams Lost Cities RFQ.
Mhm.
So I understand the city shortlisted some people who are interested in this. Can you kind of give us a look back? I guess now we're 3 months into this. Where are we on this, and what have we learned up to this point?
Are you talking about the framework plan or the design of the park itself?
Now, the framework plan.
Uh-huh.
This is the one that you were
Yeah.
asking for developer interest.
Yeah.
And you outlined the diversity
Yeah.
and,
Sure.
and all of that, and property acquisition maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, because there's two different things in play at Hollis C. Williams. One is that UDA is working on, which is we were trying to fold in the equitable development framework plan to ensure what happens that when we come to put a park in, that the surrounding neighborhood and the surrounding people are also heard, and certainly that the neighborhood is preserved and protected as best as possible. So that's gone great. Honestly, the two events that we had down, we're already setting up another one for the spring that we had over a recent weekend at the skate park and at the pool. Gave us a ton of great feedback, and this type of engagement is the first of its kind in the city. Is that we're trying to get out of the habit that many cities and counties get into, which says, come meet us at this one place at this one time, and then we check a box and say, well, we didn't hear from the minority community or the young community. So I'm very proud of, and Adrian Walker and Rachel Bennett have been very involved in our planning offices. And I would say that this has been the most intentional approach that the city's ever taken in terms of making sure that folks are heard, and it will continue. And as far as design goes, design aspect, obviously that RFQ, or RFP, that's already happened. We're in negotiation with the winner of that, or I guess it's RFQ, excuse me. We're in negotiation on the actual design side with the winner of that as we speak. So we're going back and forth on scope and all of that. It's a little complex in that, remember, we have $30 million of funding that's directly correlated to stormwater only. So if you're thinking about restrooms or amenities at the park, well, our funding stream doesn't allow for some of those things. It's really it could be, things like trees or pervious walkways or stormwater ponds, property acquisition, things like that can be funded through the existing funds. But we think it kind of like to Jim's question about Graffiti Bridge, we think it's short-sighted to have someone come in and design only for that, paying no mind whatsoever to what the second layer, if we were to get funding, whether it's Restore, whether it's the Raise Grant program through USDOT right now, that's one we've applied for, that when we can put that second layer of amenities on, we certainly want the design of the stormwater park to be mindful of those. So right now, what we're kind of balancing between is the full design of the stormwater aspect with eyes on what a kind of a layered phase 2 would be, hoping, fingers crossed, that we find that funding over the next couple of years of time. And even if we don't do it right away, that we have that plan in place. And so that's why we're kind of going back and forth, is like, what's the right scope of the design? Is it, I think it might, doing 100% design on the aspect of the project that we don't have funded yet may not make a lot of sense, but doing 0% may not make a lot of sense either. So I'm very, very happy with where we are with Hollis T. Williams, a generational project. Councilwoman Broughton's very engaged. We've had some meetings with some folks, some friends of Hollis T. Williams that we've gotten together that have done a great job of helping engage the community, at local churches and local, the biking groups and the skate park and all these other diverse, engaged populations that are going to care about what happens down there. So we're very excited for the progress that we have there and the intentionality that we've taken to make sure that all voices are heard. Anything else? All right, guys, thank you.